So, yeah, at the start it was all about numbers. I wanted to be the youngest coach to do this. I wanted to be the youngest to win 100, the youngest to get to 150, the youngest well, I was. Who cares? And that Hall of Fame thing that was back in 1995, that was a heck of a trip in the car to go up that night with Roy and Clint. And I sure wasn't thinking about going in the Hall of Fame. We were playing West Lyon the next morning, and I remember going up through that road through Belle Plaine and up that way. And Roy said, "You want me to drive?" And I says, "No, we ain't got time." And I usually don't speed. But back then, that was such a big deal. Well, that was 30 years ago. And that stuff's all done. And the longer you win, it was more about, and I'm not going to try to embarrass anybody. Well, and if it does, it does. When Charles Sellers and Tony Pitch show up at Creston, 3 hours from here for our playoff game, and they've come to Sigourney, and there's been a lot of other guys, that have come to our games. That's why you coach. And this kind of thing, I guess, is why you coach. And to me, this is about Sigourney and Sigourney-Keota. It ain't about Bob Howard. I was very fortunate that I think God gave me a really thick skin, a really big ego, where I could take criticism, and I didn't. And I wish everybody loved you and everybody thought you were great, but that was never that doesn't happen. And I was able to be in places where I had kids that would buy in, and we could have success. And we had a really good sports writer, Troy Banning, up there that's at Gilbert now, but he was always about, I said, yeah. My teams that I've been on the sideline with have won 370 some games or 60. I ain't played in any of them. I said it's a good dang thing that I don't have to play. So it's very cliche, but it's about the kids and about relationships. That's why you coach. And I really wanted to get 3 more years because I wanted to get to 50. And I may still. I mean, that's my goal right now. The second grader, it's 5 years, and he'll be in 7th grade. So we'll see if I want to come back. I can't see me coaching 7th graders, but I coached junior high basketball here a couple years. That got me back into the high school really, really fast. Because back then they didn't care who I was, and they didn't know I was such a big deal, and they sure don't now. So, but it's about relationships and kids, and I considered myself, and I know all the notoriety was about football, but I considered myself as much about the girls' basketball and softball. It was the whole athletic department together, because the reason Ed Thomas and I, and then I'll shut up about this, we went to Emmitsburg and go about football. He was training boys and girls the same together, and speed training and weight units, but the girls did the same thing the boys did.
So if me and Coach Sellers
had, the Pat Carey incident and all that, so that was a pretty
and to me, the crux of all of it was there in the summertime when that had to have some in the weight room, some were outside throwing a football, a wrestling mat was rolled out over against the bleachers, and kids just kind of wrote. I mean, it was multi-sport. We weren't going to be just football players. I love seeing your football. Brand new one at home that somebody never wore once Christmas. And then all we did at Christmas playing, I mean, that was tough. And that was Rich Greif and those guys at Montezuma that were winning the state. And we were playing freshmen. I mean, Chris played in 50-10 because they wanted to what you didn't do was try to play physical. I was very proud of that. And I think when I left, now I'm sure it's changed now, when I left, I know I was the losingest girls coach in Sigourney, and I think I was the losingest and winningest boys basketball coach too. And I've always been really proud of that. I mean, I can't imagine there's been too many people in the history of the state of Iowa coached more varsity events than I did. And for 25 out of the 27 years, I coached 4-head sports here. Now, we're not going to go into the petition that got ran about having nobody coach more than 2 sports, which maybe solidified me more than anything else because it really lined people up. But It was awesome. And
The one sport you didn't coach, it was wrestling. You just never had a chance, or
I never wrestled, and I didn't know anything about it. We didn't have wrestling at Madrid, thank God, because Kevin Marshall was a 3-time heavyweight champion from Adel, who was like 6'6" and 380 or 90 pounds, and a national junior college champion, who then, I believe, I shouldn't even say this because maybe he's out. I think he went somewhere for manslaughter, but so he couldn't get to me on the wrestling mat. But no, I didn't know anything about it. I went to a lot of wrestling practices and went with Coach Smith 2 or 3 times up to Gable to watch Gable's practices, and the wrestling mentality. Well, obviously, what I don't like is the weight cutting, and it's not like it used to be quite as much. That was always tough, to be weight training for 7 or 8 months and then dump 30 or 40 pounds. But they were all doing it back then. And now that's kind of not happening now as much. But that, yeah, I didn't coach that. Didn't coach cross country. Didn't coach volleyball. But those are about it or golf. I don't know anything about golf either. But
yeah.
We're
Any other questions out
yeah,
here?
we're out of time real quick. We're actually going overtime, but that's all right.
I got one more question
Yeah.
for Coach. Never said nothing. Punt return, and I just kind of wanted to know your thoughts on that, or did you know that rule?
Ferentz and what he's done at Iowa, and understand maybe they might want to go back to the name Tom Davis when they're wishing for some big changes. So they do down there. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I thought they got screwed too. Literally, I don't have anything that doesn't say Webster City or Sigourney, Kyoto. I got 8 great big lawn and leaf bags full that I've never gotten rid of. When I left, I gave Lenny my coat. Didn't, and now the other day I had a Cobra sweatshirt on, and my son Houston, who is here all the time, so he hits the floor because I jump as much as I can. I jumped up, and
Tom Stone says, "Bob, I know how to defend that play." And Bob went, "Well, I'll rip those playbook." And the guy looked at Stone and says, "Well, does he throw a lot?" And Stone went, "Throw? You guys ever watched Howard's team play?" He goes, "I don't think he knows the forward pass is legal." Everybody talks about the wins, but I'm going to bring up something about a loss you may or may not remember.
I remember all 113 of them really well.
Okay. This was, you guys lost 7-6 to Kyoto.
Yep.
And after the game,
Were there. One of the first supporters I had when I got here was Jack Sellers, and one of the first people that came up. And I've always really appreciated the Sellers family and all the other families too. I mean, that's why I hate mentioning anybody. You've got the Hamases here and Ron and the Birds. I mean, I shouldn't mention anybody, but your dad was the first score, literally. We usually knew it was going to probably be 40 or 50, but I ever got here, following a state championship wasn't easy. But our demographic started changing here too, and melding Sigourney and Kyoto together and then keeping it together is awesome. And as I told you guys before, there's lots of guys we can mention about that. I assume the Menke kid that's wrestling now, Steve's kid. I mean, that's all. I mean, and lots of but Derek Griner should probably be sitting here because his fun is awesome. And you look at all the other places that couldn't keep it going because of friction and little petty stuff, and you can blow that all up with social media now so much faster. And right or wrong, and I know what the perception of me by a lot of people, whether that's fine. This is worth everything to me, that people thoughts about this, those stories of all the years. And yeah, I'll just stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All righty. Again, this is our special edition of the sports section with Coach Bob Howard here at Brothers Market in Sigourney.